Okay, so what we're going to do is go over the repair this dome camera, putting a new cable that I got here off the computer for the camera. This camera kept going offline, and I thought the problem was in the original cable that was on here. And so as a test, I cut it off and I just hardwired a whole bunch of Cat 5. I just basically spliced it into a Cat 5 as a test to see if this camera would stay working, and it did. So at that point, now that we know it works, I'm going to get rid of all this and put this on, and I'll show you how we do that. Got this on eBay, and when you buy it, they show you a picture of it with connectors on the end. But what's really nice is that they don't actually come with the connectors on the end. It comes with these bare wires, and they have the proper connectors there to go into this. They give you all these JST housings, if you can see that. Try to get a focus here. So this is really cool. You just configure this the way you want it. And also, just want to point out to all you yahoos that these are not twisted. And actually, the original cable that I chopped off the camera, it was identical to this. I actually dissected it, and these wires are not twisted pairs. And these ends here that aren't even shielded will be inside the camera dome itself, which is an acrylic or plastic housing. RF frequencies penetrate that pretty easy. So, you know, I got sick of in my other video, the Yahoo saying that this won't work if they're not twisted. Okay, it'll work, it's fine. Okay, just take it easy, everything's under control. Okay, so to start, you just take the dome off, and you can see right away what we're going to be doing. Right here's where the cable comes in and connects. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a 6-pin JST and a 4-pin JST, and that looks like about it. Now when you get the new one, you're gonna configure your own JST connector with all these options they give you. But what's important to note is don't go by the color code, because, you know, don't just go by, okay, well, the purple one's on the end. There's no standard amongst the manufacturers as to how they got these things configured, so you do need to trace these out yourself. And so to do that, we have this breakout where we can we'll plug this in, and we'll plug the other end into the camera cable, and we will then be able to track each wire to the individual Cat 5 pin that it goes to. Optionally, we have this one, which would just plug directly in, but this is wired for a different purpose, and this could be a little confusing. I put my own label on here to identify how this is actually wired up, and you can see it's actually wired up. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, 6, 7, 8. So to avoid confusion, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one, which is just, as you can see, if you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all in order. Now, lucky for me, this particular camera This is a Jidetech, and it actually has right on the back side of the board. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to get you a shot of it. But they actually numbered the JST. Get a focus here. Those are the actual Cat 5 pins. 1, 2, 3, 6, and then same thing over here. This 4 pin is pin 4, 5, 7, or 8 for the PoE, and then the 12 volt and ground, the red one and the black one. So that's very helpful. Otherwise, you're going to have to do a trace by trace with the old cable to the new cable. But this makes it pretty simple that they've already, that they labeled it. They silk screened the board. So that can be a really huge help. Go ahead and take the board loose and see if you got a silk screen there. Then half of your work's already done. So case in point here, the first color they have, let's see, pin 1 is a white cable. And our pin 1, I don't know if we can get all this on camera, but take my word for it, I'm trying to show you. Our pin 1, which is right here, is a blue and white cable. Blue-white, or white-blue. So color codes don't mean anything. Don't follow the color code. Also, it's an 8-pin. It's an 8P, 8C connector, or RJ45. And then 2 pins here for power, and we've got 11 wires. That means we got an extra one in here, which might be the ground or the hot. Don't know. Oh, and again, for you yahoos, you can see that here's the where the Cat 5 comes in under the acrylic dome, plastic, whatever it is, and they are not twisted. Okay, and that's how these cameras are from the factory. They work fine. Don't be such a purist. I guess I should have filmed this for your sake, but basically there were some wire ties, some zip ties in here, harnessing everything down. Need to use some flush cutters because to just reach way down in there and get them without interfering with any other wires, these worked out pretty good. Anyway, then there's screw holes holding the camera to the actual base. One here, and then able to just spin the camera around on the base and get to the other screw holes. Maybe I should put this where you can see what I'm talking about. So now I got to the actual base where this harness comes out and the new one goes in. Depending, I mean, I could have avoided taking all of this apart if I just snipped the wires and then fed the other wires through. I'm trying to restore this to as much like factory again and get the actual jacket and everything through this tiny hole. So your next obstacle is this little nut that has the 2 slots in it. I'm sure there's a factory tool for that, but you can manipulate this by getting a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, in one side of those things, and then just say, it's hard to do while I'm on the camera, but say, you can get that to spin around that way. if you get what I'm saying. Okay, so now I've got the cable out. There's this little rubber washer thing's gonna have to go back around the outside of this. But anyway, getting back to the cable, and of course I got the camera sitting here with its parts. Yeah, we're getting there. So now I got that little ring out, and I can just slide that over. I couldn't do that before because it tightens up against this rubber bushing. So now that'll come off too. That can be a little tight. A little hand soap is all you need to take care of that problem, and then slide it off. So you see we put some hand soap on the cable because this thing was pretty stubborn, and now just slides right off. There we go, just like that. And then of course we just take the new cable and we reverse the order. We got to slide this on and the nut, go through the hole, go through the bottom of the camera, and then go to our little chart. I'll show you this in a second that I made showing the pinout of the camera cable. So basically the same thing here. A little bit of hand soap on the cable. And just slide this thing. Look at that. Nothing to it. Okay. So we'll just get that on there somewhere up in there. And then the nut. Oh, actually put the nut on first. Yeah, that's right. Then we put the little rubber bushing on there, a little grommet. Okay. Okay, so there we go. We got everything through. We got a little nut back in there, our grommet. So now it's just getting the JST connector. I need a 6-pin and a 4-pin. And a little chart I made that shows the pinout of the individual wires by color code and where they go. And you'll notice 7 and 8 both go to the same gray wire. Internally, they've made that connection, and so does 4 and 5. They both go to the same yellow wire. That's internal, which matches the silk screen on the board perfectly. We've got, I don't know if you can see it, but we've got 4 and 5 on one pin, 7 and 8 on another pin. So that works out perfect. And as I said, seems to be an extra wire. Yeah, I have a violet wire that doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it's not connected to any of the pins when I did the circuit tracing, the wire tracing, and it's not needed. So we are now ready to go ahead and put our JST connector back on, put this back on, and we should be good to go. So you can see they give you all these blanks, which is really cool. It's just up to you to assemble it, and make sure you get it right the first time, because getting them out can be a hell to do. Also, speaking of which, when you're looking at this silk screen on the board and they have the numbering, confirm that. Don't just take their word for it, because during production runs things can change, and sometimes things might change in the hardware, but they don't necessarily change things like the silk screen. So make sure you confirm that your silk screening numbering matches the actual numbering on your cable. Do some circuit tracing first, because otherwise you'll never be able to figure it out. So when you put the JST together, you'll notice there's a little, one side has sort of openings, and the other side is completely solid. If you look closely at the cable ends, you probably can't even see it on the camera, but there's a little locking tab that sticks out. So that's how you want to orient these, so that that locking tab will click into that open space on the JST connector. And then that locks the cable right in there. Be careful. Pay attention to what you're doing. You see, I just put in 1, 2, 3. I just grabbed the next one on my list, 4, and I almost stuck it in there. And then I suddenly remembered 4 is not the next one on that connector. This connector goes 1, 2, 3, 6. 4 is on this other JST connector. So really pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, so there I am. I got my cables in order. I got them on there. And I cut off a black and red, the heavier black and red that didn't have the same JST terminations on them, because that's exactly what was the original factory way of doing it. The power is going to be on this connector here, which I've done here. So I just did it exactly the way they did it originally at the factory. And there we go. Got the little black rubber on there again. That was one of the hardest parts. So we put this together and we're give it a test. And so there we go. Here's our fully restored camera. Put the cable on there. Oh, and by the way, there was one leftover wire, this violet one, that didn't go, as I mentioned before, to any of the pins on the connector, nor on this one. So it seemed kind of weird it didn't go anywhere. I have a hunch, though, that it probably goes to this LED right here on the connector itself. That's probably why we don't get a reading of it going anywhere. I just put it, this time I actually did follow the color code because I didn't have anything else to go by. The old one had a violet wire also that went to this end connector, so I just stuck it there. I got the board screwed down now, but if you go back to the back side of the board, it's a double-sided board. Look on both sides. These last two pins don't go anywhere. They're blank. There's no traces. So I guess it's not used. But if you do have a wire that doesn't go to any of your connectors, my guess would be that it probably goes to this LED on the connector itself. Just a guess. Okay, so we got it hooked up. It's a PoE, and gonna try here doing a pan and tilt. Let's see what happens. Let's see if this thing moves. Oh, look at that. Let's go the other way. Here we got our picture. Now we should be able to zoom in. This is a zoom camera. Let's see if we can get in on this ceiling fan. So far so good. Zoom. Well, I'm not zooming. Oh, there we go. Okay. We did it. Ta-da!